I'm trying to fix my clutch on my Caterpillar D8. So this is video 7. In video 6, I talked about the bottom of this. This is the clutch valve assembly. So I talked about the bottom of it, those two orifices, and how they seal up on the deck of where this mounts. I talked to Marty. He said, yeah, they're crispy, they're crunchy, and you know, they might be leaking a little bit, but he said that's really, really common for them to get all that corroded, and he definitely did not think that that was my problem. But I do have a transmission oil leak somewhere, and we talked a lot about the bevel gear housing and the bearing and the seal and taking all that apart, and basically it takes 25 to 30 tons of force, 50 to 60,000 psi to get that stuff disassembled and inspected and figure out where it's leaking. He did mention that I could take a quart of oil and just pour it into that bevel gear flange that's on the side where the clutch and the brake are. That's where this tube comes off of this housing. There's an elbow between here and there, and this tube seats down into the bevel gear. That hole, I could just fill it full of oil and see if there are any leaks. I may go ahead and do that. And also, if this seal or any other seal were damaged, that would be another possible cause of pressure loss. And what we're after is adequate pressure to activate that cylinder that's in and around the bevel gear housing. And pushes the clutch out to engage or disengage it. As that piston cylinder travels in and out, you're engaging or disengaging the clutch. So we had about half an hour conversation, and so that was very, very helpful. And I said, yeah, I'll try to take all that stuff apart and see what kind of progress I'll make. And he said he'd come up and take a look at things. However, I called him back because I noticed that this part of the clutch valve body is very different from this part. No spring resistance, twice the amount of throw. So this one is probably functioning just as it should. That's the right clutch actuator. But this, I would guess, is the left clutch activator. I think that's the right one, and this is the left one. Seems like there's something not right there, something broken. So again, this is probably how it should work, with this much range of motion. And notice the spring tension. It takes a lot of force or effort to push it forward, and then it slams back. This one, I can do this all day. Moves a heck of a lot more, no spring tension. So something broken inside. So I'm going to take off these 3 nuts. I'm sorry, those 3 bolts, and these 2 bolts on the back side of it. Take this bugger apart and see what we can see. So this is good news. This is a very obvious looking problem and obvious dysfunction, and glad I spotted it before I further disassembled the machine. Spent 3 hours last night with Virgil coming up, and we got the clutch and brake assembly out of the left side, but it looks like that was unnecessary. I'm glad that I figured out this clutch valve assembly is not functioning properly. Before trying to tearing the bevel gear down. I'll still probably pour some oil in the bevel gear, as I talked about, just to make sure it's not leaking off somewhere. But I think we've found the culprit. So hopefully this will be an easy repair, or I can replace whatever is broken. Hopefully I won't have to get a whole new valve assembly. We'll keep you updated. Aloha.